A woman sees a man's foot near the pool with 3 dots and suddenly shocked when she sees his face, which led to her being taken to the hospital, and then she died immediately. If you want to know the reason, watch the video to the end. I guarantee you will be shocked like her. The movie commences in a room filled with boys, some of whom are men. One of the men cuts the hair of the boys using an electric clipper. One of the boys has a tattoo of 3 dots on the back of his foot. In a storage space, a man retrieves a file belonging to Nawal Marwan and takes a sealed envelope back to the office, where a man and a woman await. The envelope contains Nawal's will. Before reading it, the lawyer Jean Labelle informs the children that their mother's wishes were against his advice, but he couldn't refuse her pleas. Nawal's will stipulates that her twin children share her assets, including money and furniture, as agreed upon. However, Nawal's unusual request for her burial creates tension, as she wants to be buried naked, without a coffin or prayers, in the presence of Jean, which doesn't sit well with either of her children. Nawal's will, as read by Jean Labelle, contains specific instructions for her burial without a tombstone or epitaph due to her failure to keep promises while alive. Jean is tasked with delivering an envelope to Jeanne, intended for her father, while Simon receives a letter for their brother. Despite Simon's resistance, Labelle insists on continuing with the will's instructions, emphasizing that the recipients must receive the letters for Nawal to obtain a proper tombstone. Labelle acknowledges the unusual conditions of the will, and Simon inquires about any necessary signatures, to which Labelle responds that none are required at the moment. As Simon prepares to leave, Jan stops him, questioning why their mother would give bizarre instructions when they know the story of their father and have no brother. Despite Simon's fury and demand for an explanation, Labelle assures him that he cannot fabricate information in a client's will. Labelle hands John an envelope containing a passport and a crucifix, advising them to consider the situation overnight. Simon insists on burying his mother as he sees fit, but Labelle emphasizes that fulfilling her conditions is necessary for a traditional burial. After examining the passport, Jean apologizes to Labelle and asks him to return when Simon has calmed down. Labelle acknowledges the unusual nature of the conditions, but assures them that their mother was not irrational. Simon assures Jean that he will speak with Labelle to arrange a proper burial for their mother, and they will take care of her together. Despite Simon's concern about Jan's guilt for not being present during the accident, Jan denies feeling any remorse. During a lecture, Jan's professor introduces her as his assistant, and she takes over the class. In a private conversation, the professor recognizes Jan's mathematical potential and intuition, but he expresses concern about her lack of family or contacts in the country. Jan dismisses the situation as absurd, but the professor insists that she must uncover the truth for her own peace of mind. Jan reveals that her father died in the war in Honduras, which the professor refers to as an unknown variable, and suggests that she begin her search in her mother's village. With the professor's help, Jan finds contact information for Saeed Haider, a trustworthy individual who teaches at the university in Honduras. While searching through her mother's belongings, John discovers a photograph of a young Noah standing behind a wall with an Arabic inscription, leaving her deep in thought as she gazes at an empty pool. Nawal is swimming in a pool when she notices Simon sitting on a pool seat, staring into space. Simon is walking through a crowded hospital corridor, searching for Nawal. He finds her in a hospital room, sitting on a chair and staring into space. The scene shifts to Nawal's past, where she is running through a rocky terrain and meets a man named Wahab. They hug and run together, encountering another man who whistles to others. Wahab attempts to protect Nawal. As Nicholas, Nawal's brother, confronts Wahab, the man she intends to elope with, calling him derogatory names and ordering him to leave. A struggle ensues. Nawal attempts to intervene, but another brother emerges, urging her to return home. In a shocking turn of events, Nicholas pulls out a gun and shoots Wahab in the face. As Nawal kneels over Wahab, Nicholas aims the gun at her, but the other brother swiftly disarms him. Despite this intervention, the older brother points the gun at a wall and declares that Nawal is praying for her sins of sullying the family name. Just as he is about to shoot, a woman's voice intervenes, condemning the brothers for their actions. Back home, Nawal's grandmother confronts her, demanding an explanation for her attempted elopement. Nawal tearfully reveals that she is pregnant, causing her grandmother to react with anger and anguish. Amidst the chaos, Nawal's grandmother offers her some comfort, while Halas and Nicholas stand guard outside, listening to Nawal's screams. In a village, Nawal's grandmother urges her to leave for the city with her uncle, promising her a better future and education, while Nawal gives birth to a baby boy and marks him with a tattoo before sending him to an orphanage. Years later, Jin arrives in Duresh seeking information about her mother and discovers that she was not born during her mother's time at the university. Directed to Kefarayat prison in the south, John learns that her mother, Nawal, was a Christian journalist advocating for Muslims on campus. As tensions rise, Nawal and her fellow journalists witness the closure of the university by nationalist forces. During a meal, Nawal informs her uncle about the ongoing situation and potential clashes, with gunshots echoing in the distance. Her uncle decides that the family must relocate to the mountains until the chaos in the city subsides. Nawal's cousin expresses concern about school, but Nawal emphasizes that schools will be closed. Despite her cousin's objections, Nawal remains determined to find her son before leaving the city, citing her promise to her grandmother. In the present, John travels south by bus, assuming her mother's identity by presenting her passport at a military checkpoint. She gains access and proceeds to her mother's childhood home, which is now an abandoned prison. John meets with a group of women who initially welcome her, but turn hostile upon realizing her intentions to find her mother. Despite her efforts, they refuse to help her and dismiss her. An explosion occurs, destroying the orphanage and causing massive damage to the city. Noah, searching for her son, joins a militia and receives a mission to assassinate a prominent militia leader. She infiltrates his household as a French teacher for his son. After receiving the order to kill the leader, she carries out the assassination and is subsequently arrested and imprisoned, enduring torture and harsh conditions. In the present, John visits the now empty prison, learning its history from a tour guide, and is then directed to a former prison guard who now works as a janitor at a school. Upon showing Noah's picture, the guard recognizes Jin as the singing prisoner who killed the militia leader. The guard reveals that Nawal spent 15 years in prison, where she continuously sang, and that they attempted to break her spirit for 13 years. He was there, but she never broke. He said it was frustrating that she was the only one left standing, despite all the efforts to break her, so they sent a boot to wreck. Jidine asks who this guy is, and the janitor says Abu is a torture specialist. He repeatedly raped Nawal until he broke her. The janitor was aware that she had stopped singing, indicating that she was broken. But John disagreed, explaining that she had ceased singing to conserve her strength for her upcoming babies. The guard revealed that they had waited for Nawal to give birth before releasing her, causing Jan to become emotional and struggle to contain her tears. In a state of distress, John contacted Simon, recounting the events that had transpired within the wall and urgently requesting his presence in Duras. Noah is seen pacing frantically while a woman is handcuffed, hooded, and taken to a cell where a soldier awaits. The door is locked, and the woman's screams can be heard. The wall, hearing the woman's screams from her cell, begins to sing as the screams grow louder. Nawal's voice goes higher now. It's Nawal's turn to be cuffed and hooded, and as she's taken to the cell, she starts singing. In the cell, a Buddha wreck who walks around us, sitting the wall several times without speaking, has a look of amusement on his face. Then he rapes in a wall before he leaves. He tells us sobbing the wall to sing. As Nawal's protruding belly draws the attention of the guards, she desperately attempts to beat the pregnancy out of her body within the confines of her cell, leading to her being restrained and taken to the delivery room. With the assistance of a nurse, Nawal gives birth, much to the surprise of her partner Nawaz, who is informed of the unexpected arrival of another child. After escaping prison, the twins, Labelle and Simon, along with their companions, arrive in Dureshi and seek legal assistance from Madadi. Simon meets with Gian, who provides him with the address of the nurse who aided their mother during childbirth while she was in prison. Despite Simon's hesitation, Jan reminds him of his responsibility and encourages him to do it for their mother and brother. They locate the nurse, who is now an elderly patient in a hospital. Upon introducing themselves and inquiring about the wall, the nurse becomes emotional and reveals that she knows Gian and Simon are Nawal's children. She admits to taking the twins, but later returned them to Nawal upon her release. This revelation shocks the twins, as they had believed Nawal gave birth to their brother in prison. Meanwhile, in a different scene, 4 children are seen running through rubble with plastic bags when they encounter Nawal's son, who shoots one of them. Maddie informs the twins that he has traced their brother, Nihada May, to an orphanage in Kefarayan, where he was sent during the outbreak of war. Maddie informs Simon and LaBelle that the orphanage was destroyed and there are no records beyond it. They travel to Darisa to meet a warlord who might know Nihad May's whereabouts, but he acts suspiciously and denies any knowledge. While Simon is back at his hotel, 2 people arrive at his door regarding his inquiries and ask him to accompany them. Maddie advises Simon to go with them, while he follows Nawal, who has been released from prison and is being offered help to leave the country for America. Simon is taken to a room, blindfolded, and questioned about his reasons for seeking Nihad. When he removes the blindfold, he discovers that he is speaking with the real warlord. The warlord reveals that Nihad was a skilled soldier who longed to meet his mother. During the war, Nihad killed 7 opposition fighters in Durrës before being captured and taken to Kafar Ayat, where he adopted the name Abu Tariq. Meanwhile, John finds Simon in a state of shock at his hotel room and learns that their brother is actually their father. Upon returning to the pool, Gian is taken aback by the sight of a tattoo on a man's foot, which she recognizes as belonging to the man who raped her in prison. Despite the man's apparent lack of remains silent and walks away in shock. Meanwhile, the warlord informs Simon that Nihad May is potentially living in Canada under the alias Nihad Armani. The twins locate Nihad in Canada and deliver letters to him, causing him distress as he comprehends the consequences of his actions. In LaBelle's office, Jean presents another letter from their mother, addressed to them, which moves both Jan and Simon to tears. The film concludes with Nihad standing before a newly erected tombstone bearing Nawal's name, signifying the end of their journey. Here is the end. Subscribe for more movies like this. Thank you for watching.